Task 8 talks about operating as a representative in terms of the FAIS Act. Task 8 has 12 qualifying criteria. Let's look at Task 8, Qualifying Criteria 1. Describe the roles and responsibilities of representatives as defined in the FAIS Act. In order to describe, define, and understand the roles and responsibilities of representatives, we will be looking at the following sections. Section 1 of the FAIS Act, which covers the definition of a representative and intermediary services. And Section 13 of the FAIS Act, which deals with the qualifications of representatives and the duties and responsibilities of the authorized financial service providers. And guidance note on intermediary services and representatives. And lastly, Section 2 of the Code of Conduct, which deals with the general duties of the FSP. Firstly, let's take a look at Section 1 of the FAIS Act. Here we have an illustration of an FSP and its components, being the representatives, key individuals who render financial services to the clients, compliance officer who oversee and/or assist the FSP to comply with the FAIS Act and all its subordinate legislations at all times, administration function, or also known as the back office work, that does not fall under the functions defined as rendering of the financial services. We are going to focus on the representative as defined in Section 1 of the FAIS Act. The definition per Section 1 of the FAIS Act states, representative means any person including a person employed or mandated by such first mentioned person who renders a financial service to a client for or on behalf of a financial services provider, in terms of conditions of employment or any other mandate, but excludes a person rendering clerical, technical, back office work, administrative, legal, accounting, or other service in a subsidiary or subordinate capacity, which service A. does not require judgment on the part of the latter person, or B. does not lead a client to any specific transaction in respect of a financial product in response to general inquiries. Let's break this down and make it a bit easier to understand. A representative is any person who is employed or mandated by the FSP, but also includes a person who is employed or mandated by the person that is employed or mandated by the FSP. A representative renders a financial service on behalf of the FSP based on the terms of employment and/or mandate. A person is not a representative if he or she provides only clerical, technical, administrative, legal, accounting, or other services that do not require judgment or lead to financial products transaction in response to a general inquiry. It is important to note that representatives can do and perform certain admin tasks, and therefore they still are representatives. What needs to be considered is if a person only does or performs admin-related activities, then they are not a representative. But as soon as that person provides and/or gives any advice on a financial product to a client, then they are considered to be a representative, even if the advice arose while they were doing administrative tasks on behalf of the client or the FSP. Next, we are going to take a look at the components that make up a financial service. Firstly, we have furnishing or giving of advice. Secondly, we have rendering of an intermediary service. We will cover the definition of intermediary service shortly. And lastly, we have a combination of the two, being the furnishing and or giving of advice, and the rendering of an intermediary service. The definition of an intermediary service per the FAIS Act states that intermediary service means, subject to subsection 3, paragraph B, any act other than the furnishing of advice performed by a person. A. The result of which is that a client may enter into, offers to enter into, or enters into any transaction in respect of a financial product. Or B. With a view to 1. Buying, selling, or otherwise dealing in, whether on a discretionary or non-discretionary basis, managing, administering, keeping in safe custody, maintaining or servicing a financial product. 2. Collecting or accounting for premiums or other monies payable by the client in respect of a financial product. Or 3. Receiving, submitting, processing, or settling the claims of a client in respect of a financial product. Therefore, intermediary service is basically being a link between the client and the FSP or product supplier. The product supplier is also known as or referred to as the product provider. The most important concept to understand is that rendering the intermediary service is any other act or function other than giving or providing advice. As mentioned, an intermediary service is performed by a person for or on behalf of the client or the product supplier. The intermediary service includes 1. Entering into financial products with the product supplier. 2. Buying, selling, dealing in, managing, administering, safe custody, maintaining or servicing a financial product the client purchased from the product suppliers. 3. Collecting of accounting for premiums or other money payable by the client to the product supplier. 4. Receiving, submitting, or processing the claims of the client against the product suppliers. Next, we will look at Section 13 of the FAIS Act. Here we have an illustration of an FSP that is made up of the FSP, the key individuals who are effectively in charge of the FSP, and then you, the viewer, as a representative. The representatives provide or gives the financial advice or renders services to the client. The key individuals are in charge and oversee the work of the representatives. We then have a compliance officer who is effectively there to watch over and monitor if the FSP complies with the FAIS Act. Let's now specifically look at the representative. Section 13 of the FAIS Act deals with representatives and then later deals with the FSP itself. A person may not act as a representative of the FSP unless before rendering financial services to a client, the representative should have confirmation certified by the FSP that the representative has a signed contract and or mandate to represent and act on behalf of the FSP. The FSP accepts responsibility and is liable for the activities of the representative within the scope of the contract and or mandate. A person may not act as a representative of the FSP unless the representative meets the fit and proper requirements. A person may not act as a representative of the FSP if he or she was debarred, unless he or she has complied with the requirements of registrar to be reinstated. Remember that the registrar, commissioner, and authority are interchangeable concepts that all refer to the same body of the FSCA. A person acting as a representative must not render financial services or contracts in the name of anyone else other than that of the FSP they are a representative of. Now we look at the FSP and its duties with regards to its representatives and respective key individuals. The FSP must be satisfied at all times that the representatives and key individuals of these representatives are competent, comply and meet the fit and proper requirements, and if they were debarred, then they have complied with the requirements of the registrar or commissioner to be reinstated. The FSP is to take steps to ensure that the representatives comply with the Code of Conduct and all other applicable laws. We now take a look at the duties and responsibilities of the FSP with regards to maintaining a register of its representatives, commonly called the Rep Register. The FSP must maintain a register of representatives and key individuals of these representatives. This register is to include the name of the representative and key individual of the representative, business address of the representative and key individual of the representative. If the representative acts as an employee or mandated representative of the FSP, specify the subcategories and products the representative is contracted or mandated to render financial service on. The FSP is to regularly update this register and make it available for inspection to the registrar. It is important to note that registrar and commissioner are referring to the same body. The FSP is to update the register within 5 days of being informed and/or notified of a debarment of a representative or key individual. The FSP must update this register by removing the name from its representative register. The registrar is to maintain and publish a central register of representative and key individuals. The registrar and the FSP will compare each other's registers to ensure that the information is aligned and correct. Next, we are going to look at the guidance note on intermediary services and representatives. The guidance note covers what makes up a financial service with specific focus on intermediary services and when those carrying out intermediary services are considered representatives. A financial service includes the furnishing or giving of advice, or the rendering of intermediary services, or the furnishing or giving of advice and the rendering of an intermediary service. Here we illustrate the relationship of the person providing the intermediary service between the client and the FSP or product supplier. The guidance note indicates that the furnishing or giving of advice will always be conducted and performed by a representative. Advice will always require judgment by the person giving it. Therefore, this person will be a representative of the FSP. The guidance note then looks at intermediary services and when this is considered to be conducted or performed by a representative or not. If a person provides clerical, technical, administrative duties and also provide advice, then yes, the person will be considered a representative. A person who is rendering the intermediary service provides clerical, technical, administrative, legal, accounting, or other service in a subsidiary or subordinate capacity only, and does not provide or give any advice, then the person would not be considered a representative. It is important to understand when a person is to render or provide the financial service as a representative or not, because a representative has to comply with fit and proper requirements. The guidance note provides specific guidance with regards to furniture and motor car dealers that render or provide financial products to its customers. When furniture or a motor car dealer renders or provides services on a financial product to its customer, there are two possible scenarios. Scenario 1. The furniture and motor car dealers issues forms to the clients to take up an insurance policy for the goods being bought. No interaction with the client that requires judgment takes place. If the customer is interested in the financial product, then they need to complete the form and send it to the FSP or hand it back to the dealer. If this interaction leads to a financial transaction with the customer, then the person handling the forms is not seen as a representative. In scenario 2, if the salesperson actively encourages a customer to accept or even requires the customer to enter into an insurance agreement, which is a credit insurance policy or agreements providing long-term or short-term cover for theft or damage, etc., in addition to the main hire purchase or credit agreement, buying the car, etc. This scenario is a bit trickier and guidance has been provided in the guidance note. Let's take a look at scenario 2 in more detail. Because relatively complicated matters regarding insurance policy cover must be explained and disclosed to the customer. The person needs to explain exclusions of the policy, the choice of policy between that of the dealer and other insurance providers, as well as features of the policy. These go beyond pure administrative functions as outlined in scenario 1. That person cannot be excluded from the definition of a representative and must meet the fit and proper requirements. The way for dealers to avoid appointing each salesperson as a representative is to ensure that the salesperson does not interact with the customer in terms of the insurance or financial service transaction. The dealer should therefore consider appointing a dedicated person who will render financial services as a representative to interact with the customer on insurance-related transactions. This is to avoid the dealer having its salesperson being deemed to be a representative. And lastly, we look at Section 2 of the Code of Conduct. The general duties of a provider is to 1. Be honest. 2. Be fair. 3. Be skilled. 4. To act with care and diligence. 5. To act in the interest of the client. 6. To act in a manner that maintains the integrity of the financial service industry when rendering a financial service to a client. We have now covered all the sections relating to describing the roles and responsibilities of representatives as defined in the FAIS Act. Let's take a look at some questions to test your knowledge. Question 1. A client calls Thabo, a representative. The client wants to add a newborn baby on her medical aid. Thabo sends the details of the client for underwriting process to be concluded. In terms of the FAIS Act, what is the role played by Thabo? A. Intermediary, advise, administrative and advise, or administrative. Pause the video here and read through the question carefully as well as the options. The answer is intermediary financial service, as Thabo would be acting between the client and the product supplier or product provider. Question 2. Musa has just bought her new dream car of a BMW 4 Series. She is worried about driving the car out of the showroom as she has not managed to arrange insurance cover. She asks the salesperson if he knows what she should do. Which of the following is considered the best answer? The salesperson talks her through the insurance options BMW offers because he has the relationship with Musa. The salesperson introduces Musa to his colleague, who is a representative that works for BMW Insurance, a registered FSP, to explain all the options available. The salesperson just includes the insurance with the sale of the car and just gets the manager to sign off on the deal. As we have seen from the guidance note, for a salesperson not to be deemed or seen to be acting as a representative and then needing to meet the fit and proper requirements, it is important that the salesperson does not provide a financial service. Therefore, in the motor industry, it is common that a separate person would be available in the showroom who is a representative in order to deal with all financial services transactions. So let's go through a final overview of what has been covered. We have covered the definitions of a representative and intermediary services. Then we looked at what requirements the representative needs to meet before acting as a representative of an FSP. We discussed the FSP's duties to ensure that the representative of the FSP complies with the codes of conduct, being competent, complies with fit and proper requirements, and where the representative was previously debarred, then will need to comply with the requirements to be reinstated. The FSP also has an obligation to maintain a register of representatives and the requirements around that. Next, we looked at the guidance note on intermediary services and representatives, as well as specific guidance dealing with furniture and motor dealers when providing intermediary services and the effect on their salesperson in deciding if they are considered representatives or not. Finally, we covered the general requirements of an FSP or representative when providing financial services to a client. We hope you enjoyed the video and learned a lot. Please make sure to check out our other RE videos.